Um, Earlier today, I had a lot of technical difficulty with the system, and for some reason, I know it's on my end. I have to figure out a better system, but I wasn't able to complete the show or the video this morning or this afternoon. So I decided, you know what, I need to complete it. I tried to complete it this afternoon and then tried to upload it, had issues with that. So now I am back and I'm doing this just so that I can make sure that I complete the video and get it out there. So I apologize for earlier today. And we're going to go ahead and get through this tonight. Okay. So it is Friday night and this is Freight Connect. We call this Freightcast, and I appreciate you all being here. We talk about the industry, some things in the industry, not everything, but some things in the industry. And if it deals with economics, something is out there about economics in our industry, we're going to talk about it because that's what I enjoy talking about. Hopefully, you can build the connection or develop the connection in regards to economics and your business. There are so many things that we don't have control over. We don't have control over the economy, but the economy has control over our industry. And so, therefore, I think it's something that we should pay attention to. Even if we can't control it, we need to at least understand how it's being guided, just like with the tariffs. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that are trying to decide what they are going to do. But because they don't have control, they are not able to make decisions. They are not able to make moves. They can make moves, but it could be very costly for them if they were to make a decision today, and then next thing they know, down the road, they're paying for it in tariffs. So the decision they make is to keep still, is to wait, is to not do anything, is to not hire, is to not purchase. So it slows down things. And does that mean that we're going to see less product on the shelves? If we see less products on the shelves, that means there's less truck movement, something that we cannot control. But yet, it is a part of what we're a part of. We follow the economy, and we should understand it, and we should understand it, and we should also work to make decisions based upon what we have learned. Some of the things that we may find out in the economy, it's not necessarily put out in the news. Okay. So for that, you have to know a little bit about economics. You have to understand some of those things so that you'll know what to look for, what to hear, and know what to do about it. Okay. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is there are a few things I want to talk about, and then I am going to be done and I'm going to get to my weekend. But one of the things was the consumer sentiment report. It came out and there was an article that was put out by CNN. And earlier in the day, in the morning, it was one of the top stories. And I knew, give it a little time, it's going to be gone. People don't really connect with that type of information, but that's okay. Um, it doesn't really impact them until it really does. It's it's like once you start to really feel it. If 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 let's say I'm on a job and I have a job, I'm doing well, I have no issues, but the people across the street are getting laid off. Oh, they're laying off? Oh, that's too bad. Yeah. You go right back to work. But as soon as layoff crosses the street and comes to your office, it's a whole different story, right? So we don't pay attention to things that really don't immediately impact us, that have no effect on us, but it just might be walking across the street and we had no clue because we didn't pay attention. So I think it's very, very important that we do pay attention to these economic indicators because it's always going to be a part of what you do as long as you're in the trucking business. And it's good to know. And not only is it good to know, if you understand some things now, you're going to understand more tomorrow. The economy goes up, just like a roller coaster, and we're just there for the ride and anticipating, but we're not really preparing. The only thing is that we know, some of us, we know that there's going to be another side, the other side, and that side takes us straight down. And we have to ride that as well. Are we going to ride it screaming, or are we going to ride it with confidence? Because sometimes there are some roller coasters where the downward, the steep is a lot steeper than other roller coasters. So once you get down there, I mean, there are twists and turns. This thing can go upside down, it can slow down, it can pick back up. So the economy is like a roller coaster ride. It really is. So if we are in our business, we might as well buckle up and get ready. Okay. So in regards to the consumer sentiment report, it talked about how I think it was that this is the lowest that it's been. I think it's been in existence, the survey, since 1952. And I believe it has taken an 8% plunge, where it's at 50.2, I think, is the reading for March. No, for April. I'm sorry, for April. And this is the lowest that they say it has been, I think, since the Biden era in 2021. And again, I'm not sure why that would be the case. Um, Not 2021. Was it 2000? I have to look that one up. I have to look that up because I'm getting that mixed up with something else, another article. But let me look that up. But at any rate, they were comparing it, for to all of the time that this survey has been in existence. And right now, here we go. Yeah, it says June 2022. So June 2022, that would have been, I believe, that would have been on the downside of COVID, right? Because I think that was around the time Putin invaded Ukraine, which was February 24th of 2022, I believe. And then that summer, it looks like, and I thought that that was a summer where everyone was transferring from buying goods to getting out and spending their money on services because everyone had been cooped up, and it was a time period where we were able to get out. There were less restrictions. So consumer sentiment at that point was at 50 points. April 2025, it's at 52.2. And that's a 20-year, let's see, 20-year average is 80 points. That's the 20-year average. So this is at an all-time low, one of the all-time lows is where we're at now. So, watching that, I mean, why is that significant? Okay. The reason why this is so significant is because when people start to believe they need to stop spending or change their spending habits, it's based upon something. They're nervous about something. When they change their spending habits from spending to not spending. Okay, so when they're not spending or they're spending less, they're looking around to ask the question, what is going on? You know, and do I feel secure on my job? Do I feel secure about tomorrow? And when they start asking questions, there's a lot of uncertainty. So you have businesses that are dealing with uncertainty. They're not making moves. And then you have the consumer not spending money. So if you have businesses, they're not making moves, there's not investments going on, and you have consumers not spending money, then you have businesses that have no customers. I'm not going to say no customers, but the customers are spending less. And then there's a less need for employees. Employees get laid off, more uncertainty, less spending, less money available. At that point, we're riding this roller coaster. It's almost as if really we're kind of at a peak and then we are anticipating and we're up here at the top of the roller coaster at the hill, the top of the hill, and then we're all of a sudden anticipating that we're about to go down. We feel it. We know it's coming, and we can't do anything about it. And what ends up happening is we come across the crest and we go down. And it is a scary ride. I don't like riding roller coasters. I used to, but I don't anymore. It's been a while since I've been to an amusement park. I'll get on one and I'll go. I never take the chicken exit, not because I don't want to be seen as a chicken, but just because I believe in following through. I stood in that line for 30 minutes to an hour, and it's like I'm going to take this, or I'm going to go ahead and get on this thing. And but yeah, getting to the top and knowing you're going to come down like that, you're going to go upside down. There's a thrill to it all, but man, I can't wait till it's over. And speaking of that, I mean, it's really like the way things are going right now. I cannot wait until we get to the end of this story. I want to go to the end of this tariff story. I really do. I want to get to. I don't want to ride the roller coaster. I really don't. I want to turn the pages, get to the end, find out where this all ends up. I really do. It almost feels unnecessary, but I know I'm not going to get into all that tonight, but I really just want to get to the end. I want to. I don't like watching movies and knowing the ending. I don't like it when I'm watching a movie with someone who's already watched it and like to talk through it. I don't like. I don't like reading a book and knowing the ending, you know. I mean, books that I read, they're more of your I don't know, learning books, your factual stuff, not your novels or anything like that. So it doesn't matter to me on that because I'll go back to that book, to revisit it and learn some more stuff. But I don't like to know the ending. I want to go through, even if it's a movie that it takes me on a roller coaster ride, I want to ride that until I get to the end. I want to wait. Don't tell me, don't let me know. But this one, I want to get to the end. I do. I want to know. I want to know what's going to happen. I just don't want to know what's going to happen in between. I don't want to know. So, as far as this goes, I mean, I'm looking at the sentiment survey. I'm looking at going back to how far back does this go? I don't know how to go. I don't know if it's not telling me on this chart, but writing it, I mean, just like any graph, it goes up and down, and then it takes this dip during COVID. And then after that, I mean, we haven't recovered. We really haven't since COVID. We have not recovered on this survey, but right now we're at 52.2. So a lot of people are concerned, it seems like, based upon this survey. And I can understand that. It makes sense. I'm not going to, you know, try to think around it. It makes a lot of sense. But in reading the survey, there are other economic indicators to look out for that can help you and to make decisions for your business. But if you were to look at this and dig in on it, what would you think about this? What would you think about your business? What would you think about the trucking industry? Because obviously, if people are going to hold on to their money, they're not going to be spending. If they're not going to be spending, there's not going to be much need for truck service, you know, and that is to come, right? And if we believe that, some people don't want to think about it, just kind of do what they do and not do anything in regards to, not allowing this to be a factor in making them making decisions. Um, that's their choice, but I think that we should consider this information. Now, I would say not to consider this information alone. Look at some other some other indicators. Look at um, there's plenty of indicators out there, economic indicators to check out. And I will say this. Um, I got my degree in economics. I've said that before. I love economics. There are a lot of things to look at. I put information out there. I've done this for years in regards to trucking, and we're working on something that I'm really excited about. It does have to do with economics, but it's not economics. I mean, it is economics, but it is about your business. It's to support your business. And me saying that, we have put out recently, well, we've been doing it quite a bit. We put out a lot of information in regards to economics. One of the things is in regards to this article, when I saw it this morning, it was like, man, excuse me, this is something that really needs to be considered. And so I put out an article, and it is on our blog. You go to elevatefr8.com, and you'll see it there. It's the most recent article, which was put out today. And let's see here. And we did put out another one prior to that. The one that we put out prior to that, it was titled Main Street Moves First, How to Read the Signs Before the Storm Hits Freight. So in that article, we also talked about retail sales. Retail sales report came out, that was last week, and it showed that there was a boost in retail sales, but we realized or found out that that was because people were buying cars. They were trying to buy cars ahead of the tariffs. So they spent money on cars, a big increase in regards to the number of cars purchased. And so that really makes sense. But when you look at the rest of the spending, it's not anything that's impressive, but it'll be interesting to see what the next report looks like. And that comes out on a monthly basis, mid-month. And I'm looking at the article that we put out, and this information is on the article that we put out last week. And also we had consumer confidence, the consumer confidence report or survey, and then also consumer sentiment. We also had that listed as well. So we had this information already out there last week. And the one thing that I really believe that we should do is try to get information in order to look ahead, right? I'm always trying to look 3 months, even 6 months ahead. Doesn't mean that I'm accurate in that, but I do like to look at the information and then project forward, look forward to see, what I think is going to be happening, And I think that with all the information that's out there, I think that that's not totally difficult to do. It's not a hard thing to do in terms of thinking about what is to come, what could come. It doesn't mean you're always going to be accurate, but at least to have a thought and you're thinking about things, it helps you to stay on your toes, right? There's some people to listen to, some people to not listen to. In regards to economic indicators, there are some indicators that are leading indicators. There are some indicators that are lagging indicators. Lagging indicators are ones that tell you what has happened. They're not really telling you much about the future, but we look at them and we get a report to see what has happened. It's almost like me looking at the baseball scores and looking at the box scores, and it's telling me everything that's happened. It's not really telling me anything about what is to happen, but I can look at that information and say, okay, has been the behavior of this batter or of this pitcher. And then I can assume that next time I put that pitcher in, he's going to follow the same pattern. Maybe not, but based upon the information that I have, this lagging information, I can assume that this is probably what's going to happen. Therefore, I can make decisions as to how I use him the next go around, and if I'm going to use him in a challenging situation, we're in a tight squeeze, or am I going to use him when we have a major lead and there's only one out needed and we've got this 10 point advantage, and I bring him in to do his thing to help boost his confidence and allow him to work on some things in a real game situation. So me looking at the past will determine how I use my players in the future. Okay. So we can have lagging indicators and look at what has happened in the past to help us decide how we're going to handle um, the future. Now, lead indicators, these are ones that tell us we can look at and can give us an indication of what's to come. All right. So these things will guide us. I'll give you an example. Well, say this would be, I guess, a decent one. If I had information, which it does exist, have information about orders that are being put out, orders that import orders, orders that go overseas, manufacturing orders. And if I understand what that level looks like to maintain a healthy economy and know that trucking is going to be flowing, that there's going to be this massive import or at least this consistent import of product coming in that needs to be hauled, and I know that it's coming in, I know that the orders went out, and then I know it's going to take about, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 weeks before that gets on the boat. And then I know that it's going to take a couple of weeks before it gets here. And then if I stay ahead of that and I know what that looks like, I can tell when there is going to be a dip in that volume of shipment that hits the shore. I know because I'm looking at something that is going to tell me, what that's going to look like before it ever hits the shore. So then I can make proper adjustments. If I have clients that I've been moving freight for, I can communicate with them in regards to that, and we can act accordingly. And so since we are communicating together like that, they see me as a valued asset. And I continue to retain their business and I keep doing the great work that I do for them. But that information helps me to stay ahead of the game, right? So it's good to have information, surround yourself around information that is going to be of benefit to you and help your business to stay afloat through the good times, through the bad times, challenging times, and just to put you in an overall better scenario. All right, when it comes to moving freight. Again, I'm always about finding direct opportunities. You don't want to. You can live in the spot market. That's totally okay. But if you're looking to grow, I think you want to be able to develop that freight outside of the spot market. There's many ways of doing that, and using economic indicators can be a benefit to you, and understanding just how some things in economics works and the economy works can really set you apart. Because you can use that information not just for you, but you can also use it with your client to support your client in having those conversations. So building those relationships really can make a difference in your business. Okay. So last thing on consumer sentiment. Right now, if you were to walk into the store and you were to notice that there are not as many people shopping on a consistent basis, that's consumer sentiment. That means that people are holding on to their money, or maybe they don't have money, and they're not spending it in that way. You might see them in the grocery store, and you can look at the carts, see what's in people's carts. You can have conversations with people, in the egg aisle, and they will talk to you, and you'll get to find out what people think. A lot of people, which is very interesting, is that a lot of people don't know why we're having high egg prices. Our egg prices came down, but they definitely are a lot more expensive than they were before the pandemic. All right. But a lot of people blame the president. A lot of people blame it on, was it bird flu? A lot of people blame it on maybe Putin. I don't know, but no one really understands why that is. Why? So there are people that know, but everybody's got their answer to that. So, consumer sentiment, it definitely is one of those indicators to keep an eye on. Okay. The other thing is, well, there was this report that I saw. Well, I mean, before I get to that, I mean, talking about tariffs, I'm not going to talk about it and have really much to say on it. But I mean, tariffs, they were a man-made thing, not this whole situation, I guess is what I'm saying, in regards to um, this whole global, can we call it a crisis at this point? But I think a good question would be, I wonder what the sentiment is, the global sentiment is, you know? I wonder what that's like. I wonder what people around the world, obviously leaders around the world, what they are thinking, what they are really saying. I'm really, really curious about that because my concern is with the way we are headed, we are putting ourselves in a position. Are we putting ourselves in a position to win? Are we putting ourselves in a position to actually come out on top? To be number one, not 11, but number one? What I mean, are we trying to become greater than one? Would that be zero? And the reason I'm saying that is America has always been number one. I mean, it's only been around for what, almost 250 years. China's been around for what, over 4,000 years, I believe. And America, and there's more people than China. So America has been doing pretty darn good. You know, there's a lot of things about America that we want to hide from, but it definitely is the greatest country in the world from the standpoint of um, being resourceful, of being, financially, having a strong economy, democracy, all that. I mean, America is number one. So, what are we trying to prove? Still not sure. I know that things can be better. COVID proved that. Things always can be better. But to disrupt things the way that things have been disrupted, what are we trying to accomplish here? So I'm not saying it's a bad thing to create disruption and to try to make things better, but the way we're going about it, what are we trying to do here? There's a lot of things I think need to um, there there are things that Trump does that I agree with, and then there are things that he does I don't agree with. And when I don't agree, I strongly don't agree. And when I agree, I strongly agree, you know. So it's very, very polarizing when it comes to that within me. So trying to put it together and say, all right, where do I stand when it comes to this administration? And it's always a personal decision that you have to make. How does it impact me? The things that I believe in, the things that mean something to me. That's like layoff across the street, and then it comes over to my side of the street, and then all of a sudden it becomes my issue, right? But I think that one of the things we do have to do, I really believe this in times like this, is we do have to look at how things impact other people. We can think about ourselves and sometimes believe that everything is good because we're not impacted by certain decisions that are made. But then I think that once we get outside of ourselves and we look around, um, it becomes bigger than ourselves. It becomes where we have to look and see, are we really operating as the America that we should be operating as? Or are we operating I don't even know the way to put it, but one, as a bully, and that would be as a bully abroad and also here domestically. And I think that that is the case when that should not be the case. So, any rate, going on beyond tariffs and consumer sentiment, one last thing I did want to touch upon, and again, we're on Trump, and I'm not trying to stay on Trump, but it all does impact the trucking industry. I saw an article someone had sent me this week, and it was about the SBA, Small Business Administration, and they said within the first 90 days, there were there was this massive increase in approval loans for manufacturing loans, 1,120 plus approval loans for manufacturing, and there was $650 million put out for those loans. And they said that this was by far greater than Biden's first term, or at least the first 90 days of his term. During his reign, or at least that first 90 days, there was $497 million that was put out, and there was 650. Let me see if I got this number right. I'm sorry. With Trump, it was $677 million, okay, with 1,120 plus loans approved. And then with Biden, it was 650 loans that were approved for $497 million. Okay, and that was in the first 6 months. Now, with that, I mean, that is great that there has been this increase in loans, and hopefully they do turn into manufacturing businesses getting started. Maybe some of that money went to some manufacturing businesses that already exist, but um, for those that are to get started, that is great. They're saying that manufacturing is back based upon that these numbers, and of course there would be a lot of employment that would go on with that, and then there would be a need to move the product, right? So there would be definitely a plus going on for our industry. Now, again, I don't know if how many of these would be startup manufacturing companies, but that sounds like a lot to me. I don't know a lot of manufacturing companies, 1,120 plus. So I don't know exactly the breakdown on that. You know, if maybe these were manufacturing loans for new equipment, you know, for some type of improvement, things like that. I don't know. But the way this article was written, it made it sound like this was spectacular. And comparing it to Biden, that Trump is the president for manufacturing and making it happen, and Biden was not. As I had said earlier, it doesn't make sense to me to compare the two. And the reason being is this simple as this. And Biden was in office, took office in 2021. And during that time period, COVID was really bad because COVID had hit the United States, or at least the United States shut down the year before, March of 2020. 2021, Biden gets in office, and I don't even think people, there were no people at the inauguration. It was outdoors, and they, I don't think they let people come, right? So with that, I mean, that was a time period where things were not good. I mean, you look at all the reports, you definitely see a dip. You see a dip or a spike in unemployment. I mean, unemployment I think got to 14% at some point, you know. Um, Consumer sentiment was down. We had it right here, you know. There was a lot of things. I mean, although people were spending money, but there was definitely that was not a situation where you would see manufacturing booming. All right. So it was unfair to compare the two. Um, I think it would have been more fair if they had just went back through different administrations. Clinton administration, Reagan administration, Bush administration, go back and see within the first 40 or 90 days, what did those numbers look like? That would have been more fair. Like when they do these diagrams, they put out these graphs, they'll even indicate when there was a recession. You know, it'll actually identify here's when a recession was, here's how long it lasted, here's when a recession was. So it puts some context into the graph. And I think that's what we were missing here. But at any rate, that's good to hear. That's good to know. That is amazing. And I hope that those who have taken out the loans, I hope they do really well. I really, really do. There's no reason for me to not hope that. I really hope that works out. I mean, everything that Trump is doing, I hope it works out in the end some kind of way. I don't think that he's going to be able to back away from it and stop the tariffs. Like I said, it's man-made. I don't think he's going to turn off the switch and say, all right, no tariffs. I think he's going to have to, keep it going because I think that'll make him look weak, make America look weak. But not that I'm saying I'm totally for the tariffs. I just don't like the way everything is going. I just don't. Now, the last thing, I had heard a report today, had talked about it earlier, but I got clarification on it. And I just heard that California has the fourth largest economy in the world. Now, I never thought about that. I had seen a report about a month ago or so, and I was just looking at, the economic numbers for different countries. And, Germany is up there, Luxembourg, some other places are up there in regards to their economic numbers. And they said California has the fourth largest economy in the world, passing Japan. I had no clue. And that was very, very interesting. But I guess when you think about it, and you have Silicon Valley, where you have the headquarters of one of the largest companies in the world, in Apple, and then along with all those other companies that exist, Google and or Alphabet and whatever other companies out there. I'm sure Microsoft is out there. I mean, there's just a lot of money out there, right? So with that said, I mean the top four, should we say top five? We'll go with the top five. The top five are America, USA is number one, China's number two, Germany's number three, California is number four, and then I would imagine Japan slipped to number five. So there is your top five, and that is pretty darn interesting. Now, with that said, they said I think they said its GDP. I think or last year it went up 4%. All right. So what you want is in an economy, you want it to have a steady increase, right? Steady production, steady growth in production. That is one of the things you look at with a country to see if it is healthy. That's one of the ways that you can, or one of the factors to determine if a country is healthy, right? And you want that to be around 2% is what they say. They're at 4%. And I think they said it was it about $4 trillion? That was the revenue of California. So, they're doing pretty good, it sounds like, based on that. But the one thing I will say is another thing that I heard, and I haven't dug in on this, but what is projected is that America is projected to, I guess over the next decade, to increase their GDP production at a level of 4%. And then I think the decade after that, 6%. Right now, I think they were predicting this year to be 1.2% by the end of the year. And there are some economists that are saying less than that due to what's going on now with the tariffs. But 4% and 6%, you want to dig in on that and figure out why. And what they're saying is AI is going to be the cause of that. It's not going to be any new innovation. It's going to be new, just new, brand new with this technology and creating whatever it's going to create, whatever's going to come up of it. And America is going to be leading the way. And they're saying that, America is going to be number one for a long time. China is going to be there second, and all the rest of the countries, you can't even put them at a third because they won't even be able to compete. What they'll be doing is waiting for America, China to do what they do, and they follow their leads. So this AI boom, it's something where people think that there's going to be a bubble, and it's going to burst. What I believe is that we are not at we're nowhere near that. I totally believe that. I believe that there is so much to come of it. Yes, innovation, new stuff to come out. I mean, it is going to be, I mean, things that I know I can't even think of is going to come about. And that's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see some of the things that come out of it. Um, it's really going to be very interesting. I mean, I could think of some things now, and it's probably on a very small scale compared to what's going on. I'm sure of that. But here's the key thing. If there's going to be that much production going on, we might not be talking about manufacturing. We might not be talking about this huge explosion of goods. Maybe we are, but I'm like, why not think about that? Why not dig in on that and figure out what is that going to look like? What might that look like? What are some of the things that they're talking about now that AI is going to cause such a dramatic boom in our economy? Where would you be able to fit in that picture? With your trucking company, even. How can you benefit from that? How can your business benefit from that? You thinking as a CEO doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, even go back to those loans. Who's taking out these loans and why? What's happening? Where are these loans at? What part of the country? What are the plans for that? You go find out. Go see what's going on. If you can figure that out, you just might put yourself in a position where you can win. You just might be able to start developing relationship, building relationships with the right people. The person that's on the dock is not necessarily going to be the person that you need to talk to, not the receiving person, the receiving clerk, or the receiving coordinator or receiving manager. Those aren't the people that you need to talk to about those things. Not the shipping manager, not the person over, well, logistics, yeah, it could be. Some of the people that you can talk to people in accounting. That's a great place to talk to people about what's going on in the business or how to get in contact with someone. They know, they probably know every department. I mean, money's got to be spent in every department. They're writing the checks or receiving payments. They know. They know who you need to talk to. They know the heads of those. That's all they need to deal with in all those departments. They don't need to deal with anyone but the head of those departments. That's it. So to get a hold of the CEO, not that you're going to get through, but the point is if you really want your business to do well, want your business to thrive, you're going to have to go through something to get there. There's no question about it. For the majority, that is what is going to have to happen. You are going to have to do work, but it pays off. So if you dig to find out who's getting these manufacturing loans and you work to make contact and work to build relationships, you might just find yourself in a really sweet deal, in a great situation. So I would encourage you to do that. So, we have a situation here. There are people that do gripe about what's going on. There's some people who will turn the other way because it's not affecting them and they feel like there's no need to deal with it at this time until there is a need to deal with it. But I say look for the opportunities. Look for the opportunities. Anytime, there is a situation where we're on the downside, opportunity exists. Because when we're on the upside, we should be preparing for the downside, not so that we can live off of it for the next 6 months, but putting a money aside so then we can invest when those things happen. Or we can make calls, different calls. We should always be calling, always shaking hands, always working to build relationships, but there's an opportunity. There's always going to be opportunities. And we just have to be in that mindset, that growth mindset. Okay. And so when we are once again looking at economic stuff, the numbers, the graphs, and all that can tell a story, right? And it can help us, help guide us to success. All right. So, any rate, that's all I've got for today. I'm going to be working on some stuff, and I'm really excited about it. I have been for a little while now, for past, oh, I don't know. I've been working on it for a little bit, and I'm really, really excited about what's going on. It's been on my mind for years, and now really digging in on it, and excited to produce it and see what happens. So hopefully I can bring that to the table next week, if not the week after that. Next week, I'm hoping to be having on someone that is in the industry and would love to talk to him. There were some things that he said that just kind of interest me, and I thought, well, you know what? I don't want him to tell me it all right now. I'd love to hear this later and bring him on aboard and get to hear what he has to say because he said some pretty cool things, some things that I think are very important. At any rate, that is all that I have. It is Friday night. Um, Looks like, wow, it's 9:30, almost 9:30. So I hope that you all have a great weekend. Be safe, and we shall see you next week. God bless. You know what I didn't do? I'm going to do it right now, even though I didn't do it. I'm going to get better at this. I know I am. I'm going to get better at all this. But I did not give you my phone number. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm here at 866-342-0040, extension 109. I should have done that probably in the beginning. I'm sure of that. If you want to give me a call just to talk about freight stuff, to talk about the economy, to talk about what you think, because I really want to know what you're experiencing right now, what you're anticipating. I really, really want to know some things that you have encountered, some new stuff, some old stuff. I love to talk to you. I would love to talk to you. My email address is paul.k at fr8connect.com, and that's again paul.k at fr8connect.com. And yeah, just hit me up if you have some time. You can um, tell me when you're available. We'll figure it out, and just love to share whatever. All right. There's a lot of things that we do here. We help companies to connect with each other, shippers, carriers, shippers, brokers, dispatchers, carriers, shippers, whatever. I think it's really important to know how to do that, to learn how to do that. There are different ways of doing it. It doesn't mean one way is wrong and another way is right. But we have our way of doing it, and I totally believe in it. I'm always excited about it. I've been in this business for over 20 years. I've been in sales for over 30 years, so I've been doing this for a long time, and there are a lot of things that I've wanted to do and that I want to do today. So it keeps me excited, and I'm really looking forward to what tomorrow brings. All right, now I am out. Have a great weekend.